Hey guys, I'm Sean Henry with Pepperland Marketing, and today I'm going to tell you about a strategy HubSpot used to increase their organic search traffic by 106% and double the amount of leads that they were getting from their older blog posts. So a question I get a ton is when it makes sense to go back and optimize old blog posts, things that you've published a few months ago, a few years ago. When should you go back there and clean that up, improve it, refresh it? When should you change your URLs? Questions along those lines. Now, this is a tactic that I would call historical blog optimization. Basically, it involves going back to all of your old content and seeing what you could do to strengthen it, make it a little bit more SEO friendly, or potentially just make it a little bit more relevant or accurate. I know personally, if I go back and look at some of the content I wrote last year or 2 years ago, sometimes I cringe a little bit because I've learned quite a bit more. Hopefully my writing's gotten a little bit better. And I just know that if I write that same topic today, I could do it quite a bit better. Google rewards you for this because if you're constantly, I shouldn't say constantly, if you're regularly refreshing your old content to keep it relevant and accurate, that's going to benefit their searchers, it's going to benefit your readers, and that's a win-win for everybody. So it can be very beneficial to go back and make sure your older content is as good as it would be if you were to publish it today. Now, how do you find the right mix and how do you find which articles to actually go back and optimize? Well, first I would say it's still beneficial to create new content. So you don't want to drop everything that you're doing and only optimize your old stuff. So maybe it's a 50-50 mix, maybe it's 80% new, 20% old. You kind of have to determine what the right mix is for you, but definitely make sure that you're allocating some time to go back and optimize older blog posts so that you're refreshing some of your weaker content. Now, how do you pick what articles you should actually optimize? So I'm going to show you how I would go about doing that. Now, it involves using Google Search Console. And in Google Search Console, there's a performance report that tells you how your content is doing. How many clicks you're getting, how many impressions, what your average position was, what your click-through rate was. And what I like to do is look at my top 10 or my top 20 articles and find one that's already getting a lot of traffic, but maybe isn't right at the top of search results. So it's not ranked number 1 or number 2, but maybe it's in that 4th or 5th slot. Now, I've already done that here. I've gone to a website that we manage, and I selected a page that was maybe the second or third most viewed page on the site, but had an average position of 16.7. So right now I'm only looking at the data for that particular page on my site, and it's an article about rainy day kid activities. So you can see that's gotten 1,154 clicks in the past 3 months, and it's had 17,483 impressions, and it has an average position of 16.7. So it looks like there's a lot of search volume, a lot of interest, but we're not seeing a ton of traffic from that interest and from those search results. And usually that's because you're ranked number 5 or number 6, and the vast majority of clicks are going to that top search result. So what I want to do is see what search queries this particular blog post is actually ranking for. So once I've narrowed it down to an individual URL, I'm going to go over to queries, and now I can see all the individual keywords that this post is ranking for. Now the headline is about rainy day activities for kids, but it looks like the top keyword is actually indoor activities in CT, and we're ranking 4.6 on average for that particular keyword, followed by indoor things to do in CT, fun indoor things to do in CT, things to do indoors. And seeing this, it kind of makes sense that there'd be more people searching for indoor things to do versus rainy day activities, because it's the indoor aspect that people are actually looking for. They don't really care that it's raining. It could be snowing, it could be freezing cold, it could be too hot, but people want to do something indoor with their kids. So that gives me a clue of something I could do to go back and optimize this article. I could also go down this list and maybe it's going to give me some clues about some more narrow topics that I could embed or add to my article to make it a little bit more interesting. So just kind of scanning through, I see indoor activities in CT for toddlers. So maybe I can go back to that article and say, here's some indoor things to do for toddlers, here's some indoor things to do for teenagers, preteens, divided up by age groups. I see a keyword indoor parks in CT, indoor day trips. Let's see if anything else stands out to me. Maybe I would see specific geographies, so references to individual cities or counties or something like that. And I'm not seeing it, but that might be the type of thing that I would look for. Here we go, Manchester indoor activities. So I can go back to this article and say, well, maybe I want to break out these activities by county or by major cities in the state. So by looking at these keywords, I can come up with some ideas, some things I could do to strengthen my article. The other thing I'm going to want to do is look at the actual search results. So let's take this top query, indoor activities in CT, and I did a quick Google search to see what it showed me. And at the top, I have a local pack, so I know people are probably thinking about finding things that are close to them. But then when I look at the organic listings, I'm going to look at the headlines, and I see 50 free things to do indoors, indoor adventures, great things to do in Connecticut, and here's our article, 15 places to take your kids on a rainy day in CT. So if I were to change my headline to 15 indoor places to take your kids on a rainy day in CT, there's a good chance I'm going to climb up a slot or two. Because now my headline is matching the query that people are most often using, and it's still communicating the same thing. It's still the same message. It's just maybe a little bit more relevant. The other thing that I'm noticing is that the #1 ranking for this particular query has a pretty long meta description. So Google recently increased the size of their meta descriptions. You can now display somewhere between 300 to 320 characters. And the old rule of thumb was somewhere between 150 and 160. If I look at my listing, we're still in that 150 to 160 range, so it's pretty small. It doesn't really stand out compared to this top one. So I might want to think about increasing the size of my meta description to make it a little bit more relevant. The other thing I might want to do is look at the related searches in the footer to see if that gives me some additional clues. What are some things that I could weave into this article to make it appeal to a broader audience? So I see for adults, for toddlers, indoor day trips, in the winter, this weekend, at night. So these are nice little sub-headlines that I might want to pack into the article. So hopefully that gives you an idea. The other thing that I'll mention is when you do go back to optimize old content, sometimes it might require that you change the URL. I would be very careful in doing this. Changing the URL basically, it's a bit like a site migration. It requires Google to replace your old page with the new one, and there's some risk in that. So maybe save that for last, try optimizing the content first, and then if you still need to do a little bit more, then think about improving your URL, but there can be some risk associated with that. Hope this was helpful. If you have some strategies or interesting things that you do to optimize your old blog content, definitely let us know in the comments, and stay tuned for more videos.